everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Sisters and Friends. Y'all, today is going to be so good because I've actually had both of these people on the podcast, but I haven't had them on together. So I'm so excited to have two of my best friends, Reeves and Lydia Walker. Welcome together.
I know. I'm excited.
I'm so excited. So if you haven't listened to their individual podcasts, Reeves was on at one point talking about LO Worship. Now Lydia is a part of LO Worship, which we have a really exciting announcement. But also when Lydia was on, she kind of told about her and Reeves starting to date and all that, which I'm so excited today to get Reeves' side of the story. So we're going to have some great conversations. But like I mentioned, we have a really exciting announcement for LO Worship. If you guys aren't familiar with LO Worship, we started a worship team through LO a couple years ago, and I've just kind of slowly but surely been putting out music, and it's been able to minister to so many people, including us. We've been just so grateful for what God's doing and continuing to do through LO Worship. LO Worship's also leading an LO conference, which is so exciting, which is not too far away. But we actually are about to release a brand new song for the summer. It's actually coming out on Friday, so make sure you get ready and check it out. But this song is going to be led by Lydia. So it's called Followers. We're so excited to kind of unpack what it's all about. But Lydia, are you hype or what?
I'm so excited. It has been so much fun. The first time Reeves brought it home and he played the song, which he normally isn't the biggest fan of like the hype songs, but this one is such a hype song and he loved it. I love it. I think it's such a fun song. I just can't wait for everyone else to hear it too.
It really is so fun, and it's funny. So like, let's share a little bit of the backstory of Followers, and also even how you came onto LO Worship, because it was really like organic.
Yeah.
Lydia, you were just like on a trip with us to Nashville, and what happened?
Yeah. Well, Reeves, y'all were going to record the last album or the last EP, and I just wanted to go because I was like, you've gotten to go on these writing trips and all these fun things. And I was like, I want to come too. Like, I just want to see, because he always comes home from those trips and is like, it was the best week ever. Like, it's what he loves to do. And I was like, I want to see you in action. Like, I want to see it all come together. And so we called Steph and I was like, can I come? Like, I'll book my flight. I just want to be there and just witness it, you know? Yeah. And she was like, absolutely. So we made it happen and we got to Nashville, and then I was there and I was just watching, and then we were in the studio and Mark was like, hey, why don't you hop in and do some vocals on this? And I was like, okay. And so hopped in, and that was really fun, and just kind of just sang on some of the songs, just some background stuff. And then there was like a photo shoot and y'all were like, Lydia, why don't you hop in the pictures?
Just in case.
Yeah, just to see, like, just hop in a few. And I was like, okay, just hopped in a few of the pictures, and then it really has just been organic and just kind of spur of the moment, honestly, too.
It really has.
Then Steph's like, hey, you want to sing at conference? And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And so it's just been like one thing, but it's just been so fun to be a part from the beginning with him, but then to be a part of it like in this way now too is really fun.
It is really cool because Reeves has been like the OG LO Worship guy, but then, you know, I know that you can sing. I've seen you lead in different spaces, but I don't know why we just hadn't thought about it and it hadn't just happened yet. And then just very naturally it started to happen. And I remember when you led a conference and everyone was like, what the heck? Like, she's so good. And it's funny because a lot of people tell me and Lydia that we look alike, and people thought that you were me in the LO Worship photo. And we're like, oh, Sadie, you're doing this? I'm like, that's actually Lydia.
Yeah. We both had on denim. You made a post.
Had like the same outfit. Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, so it happened really organically. And then when Followers came about, so it's a really cool story. We were doing a little write. What was that, like? How long ago was that? October. Yeah. Okay, so back in October, it was Reeves, Kaylee, me, Chidima, Mitch Wong, and Mark, right? And I kind of came in and was like, I really want us to write songs that really speak to our testimony, but more than just like our testimony, the broad testimony of like a generation, you know? Yeah. And so we start talking about kind of what as a generation we're going through, what things that we just kind of want to declare like victory over. And we actually wrote another song too that I'm excited about sharing later. But Followers was kind of like an obvious thing that our generation has gone through with social media. And so they started talking about it. I actually wasn't there. I had left. I'd written one of the songs that we'll talk about in another episode. And this song came about whenever I left. And I remember when they sent it to me, I was like, this is a vibe. Like, this song is so fun. You cannot help but want to sing along to it. And the words are so deeply powerful. Well, it was really cool too because I had written a book, Who Are You Following? And I wasn't even there when they wrote this song, but I was like, man, this message ties so beautifully to the book. And so fast forward to, the song's about to come out here on Friday. And it was just a couple weeks ago, I got this gift in the mail from my publishing company that Who Are You Following just sold 100,000 copies.
Wow.
Which was like so amazing. And I just felt like it was so cool because that book was like a slower start than my other books. It was just kind of like a very specific message that I don't know that everyone was like ready to receive yet about social media and all the different things about it. And so to have a slower start, but then be at the point now where I felt like God was kind of affirming like people need to hear that message. People do need a guide on how to make sure that you're following Jesus first and foremost in your life and that you're using social media as a way to impact people and not just be like led astray by who you're choosing to follow. And so for that to be affirmed at the same time, we're literally putting out a song about followers and following Jesus first was really cool. So I just feel like God is so on this message and people need to hear it, and for it to be like a fun declaration for people to sing over themselves while they're just in the car, windows rolled down, radio all the way up, but also have like a deep meaning is really cool. But it was funny because we didn't know who was going to sing Followers because, I don't know, like we're a really small team. And so we texted everyone, we're like, hey, everyone send in, you singing the song Followers. And I don't even know, did y'all realize that we were trying to
No.
pick?
You definitely didn't.
Well, I was like at the office doing some work, and then
Really funny because that night we weren't together that whole day, and that night I was like, "Did you send in your version of Followers?" And he was like, "Yeah, I just did it in the office." And I was like, "Where at?" And he was like, "In my office." And I was like, "Everyone was just listening." He was like, "No, I was quiet." And then he played me the recording, and it was so bad.
That was
I was
terrible.
like, Reeves. I was like, "You didn't even try." And he was like, It's not for anything important. Like they
That is hilarious. Hey, well, if it makes
But it
you
worked
feel any
out.
better, I didn't think it was bad. Honestly, what was cool is y'all all did sing it different. And I wasn't really expecting y'all to sing it different because I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking like, okay, who sounds the best? And it was so funny because in my mind, I had like an idea of what we were going to do. And then Lydia sang it. And I was like, what the heck? Like, this is so good. And Christian said, who's that? That's Lydia. It's like, what? It was just so good. And I think the reason, so I had thought Will for the song originally, my brother, and Will sang it amazing. He's so good. But what I liked about Lydia singing it was that it was a girl singing it, and for LO Sister Conference, obviously it's Sister Conference, and this is bigger than just for conference, but just having all the girls in the room, I just thought, man, that's going to be really powerful, and for you to lead it. But the other thing that I loved about you leading it is it kind of had this like confidence, but this like sass behind it in like a good way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this song, you need that. Like in the day that we're living in, especially with social media, like you need to have a confidence in who you are and the decision that you're making. And what surprised me about that is you are one of my best friends, and I know this about you, that confidence sometimes is hard to come to, it's hard for you to not be afraid to do things and say yes to things. And so for you to kind of share your story in LA Worship and be like, yeah, I just did it. They asked me to do conference and I said yes. And they asked me to, it seems like you're like this extremely confident person who doesn't have fear, but that's not really the case. So how have you like walked through balancing the tension of I really am a fearful person, but I'm not going to miss out on what God has for me?
Yeah. I used to just like jump into things with like no fear, I guess, for a moment in life. But and then I got to a place where everything was just kind of scary. And it was like, me and my sister used to joke about it. Like everything in life, I'd be like, are you nervous? Because I wanted like affirmation, like, are we all nervous? Like, or is it just me? Like, what are we nervous about? And then when I started walking with the Lord again, or really for the first time, that the nerves didn't just go away, like the fear didn't just go away. I feel like I've talked about this before on the podcast, but confidence definitely comes easier when I take a step back and realize like it is the Lord working through me and not me on my own. It's not my power or my strength or my giftings that I'm really bringing to the table. It's what He's given me. Yeah. And that's when I really am able to step into confidence. But I do have to take a step back, and like I do have to take a moment. And Reeves definitely knows this. I am a nervous person. I get fearful, but I think it does just take that. Like I have to step back in every moment, truly, like before anything, and that's even as small as like when we go to the hub, like even leading worship there, I have to take a step back and like okay, God, like this is for you. Like it's not for my glory at all. And it's the same with FCA. Like when I'm speaking, okay, God, this is for you. It's not for my glory. Like, so ultimately it doesn't really matter like what I'm perceived as or what they look and see, what they hear. Like ultimately, of course, as a human, my brain goes to that first. Like my first thought is, what are they going to think about what I say, or how am I going to sound, or what if I hit a wrong note, or this, that, or the other. But I think in every single moment in life, I just have to take a step back and say, okay, God, this is not for me. Like this is for your glory only. So do what you want to do and just hand it to him. Yeah. And I know that's easier said than done. I know that's easier said than done, but it's a process. And I do think being thrown into things kind of sporadically and like unexpectedly has helped me with that, honestly. To truly in every circumstance have to hand it and be prepared to hand it without like the preparation even, you know, because even in my job too and in LO worship and everything, I've just had a lot of moments where it's just like do it, and it's like I haven't really had much time to process it, and I think that's honestly helped me to be like, it is his, like even in those moments, I don't have to have like weeks or months to prepare. I can do it like in this moment, like because he's called me to it and he's prepared me for it already. Like,
that's,
you know,
so good. Building healthy habits is important in the Huff fam, and that's why we've been drinking AG1 for the last several years. Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should at least be simple. If you've been following me for a while, then you definitely have heard me talk about how much I do not like mixing and matching all kinds of powders and pills, and that's why I just love AG1 because it's so simple and delivers everything my body needs in less than a minute. I can cover my nutritional basis right at the beginning of my day with just 1 scoop in cold water to support my brain, gut, and immune health with vitamins, nutrients, pre and probiotics, and more. AG1 is a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. Like I said, it's just 1 scoop mixed in water once a day, and it makes me feel so focused, energized, and gives me that extra boost that I need to make it through a long day. So y'all have probably also heard me talk about how important the link is to your gut health and your overall mental health. A research study shows that AG1 can double the amount of healthy bacteria in your gut, which is absolutely amazing. Plus, every scoop of AG1 includes vitamin C and zinc to keep my immune system supported. And y'all, I need all the help I can get right now in this house with these little ones. Oh my gosh, we need our immune system support. So thankful AG1 covers that basis too. I make it a point to tell everyone about AG1 because, hey, it's the real deal, y'all. And now so many of our friends and family are enjoying the benefits of it too. So my father-in-law actually drinks AG1. And so whenever I was in Florida, I forgot to bring mine. So I was like, Mr. Chandler, I know you got some AG1 up in here. And sure enough, he did and shared it with me. And so we had to have a little cheers for our AG1 that day. But so many friends and family on it. It gives you such great energy. It makes you feel so great. And honestly, these travel packs really are amazing. Typically, I do travel with them, but I just forgot them to go to Florida. But I made sure I had these in Italy because I just put them in my purse and you have all the nutrients and support you need. So if there's one product that I trust to support my whole body's health, it is AG1, and that's why we've been partnered for so long. It's easy and satisfying to start your journey with AG1. So try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 drops and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/whoa. Again, that's drinkag1.com/whoa to check it out today. Oh, I can totally relate because I used to feel like I had to be so prepared for everything that I did, but that literally meant like to prepare for that one thing. So if I'm speaking, it's like, okay, I need months to prepare, you know, because back in the day, I didn't have as many events I was doing, so I could do that. And I also didn't have kids, so I had plenty of time to prepare. And then once life got busier and I had more things on the calendar and then I had a family, it was like, whoa, my preparation, like I don't have enough time to prepare maybe exactly what I'm going to say or how I'm going to say it like I used to. Like if I was going to speak somewhere, I would have that message so dialed in. I would have already preached it in front of my camera on my phone, watched it back, pulled it apart. I don't have time for that anymore. And I remember like at first feeling like guilty for it, feeling like, oh God, like I want to be more prepared. And I felt like the Lord kind of spoke to my heart and was like, prepare your heart, you know,
Yeah.
like prepare your heart, not your words, because if you prepare your heart, like you're always ready, you know, you're always ready
Yes.
for something to come at you and either be able to say yes to it, no to it, or just to sustain you through it, whatever
Yeah.
is coming at you, whether it's an opportunity or something hard in life. But if you live in a state of like, oh, I'm only preparing for a specific thing and not just
Yeah.
preparing like your life in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that, man, it's just like so much more rewarding to just stay prepared as like
Yes.
a heart posture, not
Yeah.
like a accomplishment state, you know?
Yes.
But it's really cool that you speak to that too, of like, you really had to have humility to say yes to things. And I think that a lot of people think, oh, like you need confidence. Like I need to like muster up the confidence. And to some people, confidence looks like, you know, you saying, I'm awesome, like I'm the best, I can do this. But it's actually opposite a lot of times,
Yes.
especially in Christ, saying like I'm humble enough to sing the wrong
Yes.
note. You know, I'm humble enough to mess it up and
Yeah.
say the wrong words because like I know that God can still use that, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
as opposed to like pride saying like I'm the best of the best, I can
Yeah.
do this, and finding confidence in that, where when you try to do that, something deep down inside of you is always going to be afraid because you
Yeah.
know you're not, like
Yeah.
you know you're capable of
Yes.
mistake, you know you're capable of failure.
Yeah.
So to go ahead and humbly say like, even if I fail, God can use this,
Yes.
is so powerful.
Yeah, that makes me think of last year at conference. It was my first time leading at conference, obviously, and my first time leading in front of that many people. And I was really nervous, and I was just stressing. And at the rehearsals, I was kind of like standing like a board, like I was just like stressing. And I truly was worshiping in the practice and in the preparation. But I think it was, I don't remember which moment it was, but Reeves and I were driving home to like grab something before one of the like nights or something. And the whole time, and I just like shared this with him, but the whole time I was on stage, truly, it's that old song, but the whole time, like even while we're singing these songs, but the lyrics that were running through my mind were "Take it all away till all that's left is you." And it was just like kept running through my head because it's easy in those kind of moments, and I'm sure you experience this, especially when you're on a stage and like when you are in front of so many people, it's easy to just think about yourself and to think about all the people that are going to be looking at you, and to think about like just to get into like a, I don't even know what the word would be, but it's all about me mentality. And like, and in that moment though, I was so nervous, but what took away the nerves was just repeating that in my head was take it all away till all that's left is you. Like if it's just me and you here in this room, Jesus, like if it's just us here, like that's all that matters. It doesn't matter all of the bodies that are about to be in this room. I mean, it does, it truly does. Like it matters though that we're leading them to you. It doesn't matter, you know, the sounds, the lights, the mics, like the everything else. I was like, take it all away in my mind, in my heart, like take it all away until all that's left is you. And that was just what ran through my head the whole conference. And that was what gave me the confidence to do it. Was like, it's not about this. Like, it's all about you.
So true.
You know?
Because you're confident in who God is. You're confident He's going to do His part.
Yeah.
And so, that's like a prayer that Christian and I pray over myself before I speak. It's like, God, would people like only see you when they see me? Like, would I be so like shielded by your covering that when people look at me, they see you? And then like after, it's even taking those intentional moments. Like I remember after I spoke at Passion this year, and I did like the Bible recap in like 15 minutes or whatever, but I know without a shadow of a doubt I could have only done that by like the Spirit leading me, because in all of my like rehearsals I messed it up every single time. I could not come to like a clean version of that. And then there in that moment with all those people there, the Holy Spirit spoke through me to deliver the message to the people, because it was for them to know God more. But then like after I got off stage, I was about to go straight up to where everyone was sitting, and I just felt in my heart like, no, you need to go be with God. Like before you get any affirmation from people, like you need to just go be like affirmed and like in Christ, and also like thank Him for what He just did through you. And I think about how Jesus even did that. Like after He would perform miracles, He would go to the mountainside and just be with God, you know? And I think if Jesus did that as an example of like giving all the glory back to God and just sitting with Him, and being affirmed in Him before He's affirmed in people, it's so important and keeps you humble. But Reeves, as a husband, watching Lydia kind of step into this, because a lot of people here listening might be married and maybe not, just friends in their life. Like, how do you support someone stepping into something when they're scared to do it, but you know they're capable of it?
Yeah, I think there's just prayerfully one, but also just pointing out strengths and it's just leading them back to like, hey, you know who you are in Christ, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. And I think before a lot of these moments, the fear just gets higher and higher and higher, like you're saying. And, um, we know that God is able to just show how strong he is and how big he is in our weakness. And so it's like in those weak moments and being there with you in those, that we can just both kind of just center in and be like, yes, I don't have anything to bring.
Yep.
And as we walk out on whatever stage or even a podcast or whatever, like I don't have anything to bring to this except what you've done and what you're doing in my life. And so I think when you surrender that, it's just like, that's where the Holy Spirit takes over, because you're really just letting him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it's just like diligently, carefully, like just affirming you and telling you like, hey, you've been preparing for this. Like you're ready for this. Like we've been leading in so many small moments. And I think that's anybody that's an artist or even a speaker, like there's a gazillion small moments where they've made the mistakes and they've learned the things that they've learned to be able to be ready for those big moments that are scary. And then, but combining that, surrendering like right before and just letting God take over and remembering everything that he's brought you through up till now. There's so many small worship moments that we do just for local ministries where we really just like, you just put in the time and you learn how to let the Lord lead in every moment, no matter how many people are in front of you, and just let him shine through you.
Yeah.
No, that's so important. Like Christian tells me that all the time. He's like, you are prepared for this. And to have someone else who walks alongside of you, who knows what you're capable of, be confident in you, it's like so important, because it's like, okay, you see the things that no one else sees, and you see the things that I don't even see in myself, because you see me without the insecurities, And so to have him say like, you're prepared for this, you're ready for this, we did something this weekend, and we were coming off of like a long travel day, 24-hour travel day with Honey and Haven back from Italy, which was amazing. But, a 24-hour travel day with a 3-year-old and 1-year-old, well, where are you out? And then, jet lag. So we get home and we're waking up at 5 a.m. And then I had to go to North Carolina literally for the day. And I was like doing a Q&A and speaking and all this stuff. And I just felt like, so not prepared. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. And Christian was just like, you're so prepared for this. He's like, you get up there on, Monday night, we mentioned the hub, and he's like, you preach with the same passion you preach when you preach at a passion conference. Like wherever room you're in, like it's just going to overflow.
Yeah.
And then it did, and then it's like so cool, because like, okay, he's seen me in those moments. Like he knows what's coming in, and he trusts what God's going to do when it comes out. And so to hear that voice of like reason in your life and confidence is so cool. But for those listening, so if you haven't heard Reeves and Lydia's story, then you might not know that they weren't always worship leaders. And, on a podcast talking about who they are in Christ, they both have quite the testimony. So I want to bring that up, because people here listening are like, man, these people are awesome. Like relationship goals for real, which they are. Let me affirm that. But it wasn't always the case. So Reeves, tell us a little bit about your story. And I know you have on the podcast before, but just for those who are listening who don't know, what's your background? Where are you coming to us from? Your post-life, your pre-Jesus, your dead self. Y'all, I don't know where you're from, but in Louisiana, it is hot. It is so hot, so humid right now. The summer is upon us. But no matter what the weather is like where you live, we all want to sleep comfortably, right? Waking up in sweat is the worst. Well, Miracle Made has your back when it comes to sleeping cool and comfy all night long. Miracle Sheets have self-cooling properties thanks to the silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA. They're designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long so that you can sleep soundly and say goodbye to waking up shivering or sweating. Not only are Miracle Sheets made to keep your body cool and comfy, but they're also designed to help your skin. So regular sheets harbor poor and clogging bacteria, which can lead to more breakouts, acne, and allergies, but the silver infused into the Miracle Sheets can prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth. So you can sleep cleaner and do less laundry, since these sheets will stay fresh up to 3 times longer without all the bacteria. So Miracle Sheets are designed to be cool and clean, but they're also made to be extra extra comfortable. They feel just as soft as the fancy sheets that you find at a 5-star hotel, but without the 5-star price tag. Can I get a hallelujah? We love our Miracle Made sheets. The first time we tried them, we were like, okay, yeah, these are literally the best. So we went for a little while just having one set of sheets, and then we're like, no, we need more of these. So we ordered more to have on our guest bed, and also just to make sure that in no laundry rotation do we miss our Miracle Made sheets. They are the best. They keep us cool, but they're also just extremely soft and comfy. So go to trymiracle.com/whoa to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, which would be a great gift, if you order today, you can save over 40% off. And if you use our promo code WHOA at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/whoa and use the code WHOA to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/whoa to treat yourself today.
Well, it was pretty rough. I grew up in Baton Rouge, which is like 3 hours south of West Monroe, and the high school that I went to was it was an all-boys school, and it was actually a Catholic school system, but my family wasn't Catholic. It was just, at the time, the best school option for me and my brother growing up. So that just brought us into a lot of different relationships. You know, people were just a little bit, there was just a wider range of personalities, some crazy people, and so ultimately, I ended up in the wrong friend group and just kind of followed that path. But every summer, I was coming up here and spending time with you and John Luke and going to camp and working at Duck Commander and like just around Christians. So it created this divide. And I always say whenever I'm telling my story, it's like I really understood the narrow and the wide gates that Jesus talks about, because I just knew like I'm kind of going in the wrong way. Every time I go home, I would just end up back in the wrong friend group doing the wrong stuff. But here I would see the light and I would really know this is the way I should be going. So it just created a lot of tension in my life, and it honestly just pushed me further into spiraling, and ended up at LSU and joined a fraternity and ended up having really bad habits just with alcohol, and got involved in drugs and all the things, and it really just got dark fast, and I really just came to the end of myself, is the best way to put it, after 2 years there. And I called my mom and just had a moment where I was like, I really didn't go into detail with her. I was just like, I just know that I've got to get out of here. And I was just so numb and medicated from the stuff I was putting in my body that like I felt like my brain wasn't functioning right. Like I couldn't study, and I just couldn't retain information. Like my health was bad, and it was just a headlight moment. Like, what are you going to do? So I just on my own transferred to ULM, which is a college here in Monroe, and I moved, and I didn't really tell anybody there. It was a long process from there, but along the way I started leading worship, and I'm 6 years sober this past February.
That's awesome.
And you know, I got the counseling I needed and got into the community I needed, and had amazing people just like mentoring me, and so yeah, I started leading worship and graduated from ULM and didn't use my degree.
I have to say which is funny too. But you need to speak to that. But with leading worship, that kind of how Lydia's story is a little bit similar. Like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like you weren't really trying to do that. Can you tell that story real fast? Because it's kind of funny.
Yeah, like I had grown up in music and all of that. My family was just like super rooted in music. My mom majored in music. My grandmother's a piano teacher for her entire life up until she was in like a retirement home, like still teaching at some points in time. But so it was like forced on me, never really got into it. But whenever I moved up here, I had a guy named Ryan that was really pouring into me, and he was the worship leader at our church, and he just was like, hey, why don't you just jump back into music? And like, we'll kind of bond over that. I'll show you the way, and you can start leading. So I did, and like you said, I mean, I didn't really know I could sing. I liked to sing in the car and just whatever. But it all came back really quickly because of how much it was in my childhood,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with it. And then I was like, I just really want to do this. And so then, like I was just saying, I graduated from ULM in construction, and I ended up working at Camp Chioka as like the groundskeeper, and but also the worship leader. And we didn't have instrumental worship, and me and John Luke were just like, let's do it. And so I basically just put together this like worship program and started having instrumental worship while we also had an a cappella worship service with the Church of Christ roots that were ingrained into the camp. And so we're keeping the tradition alive and kind of bringing in the new, and learned a lot from that. And then one retreat, she came, it was a Christ Church retreat that was being held at camp, but I was working there and also attending. And so my friend was dating her best friend. So it was like, that was how we met. And honestly, I just thought she was way out of my league and was scared to talk to her almost. But after that, we just became like best friends because they like our best friends were
friend group's
dating,
intertwined.
and so we were just hanging out all the time. It was me and this guy and the four of them. And you were interning here actually at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I forgot about
I had
that.
just started. That was when you had just started the Bible study. When you had, because you and Christian
Yeah.
had just recently moved home.
Yes. And I started the Bible study, and I met her and the other three girls.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm looking to hire someone. I was only looking for one.
All of us said.
They all said me, and I was like, how am I gonna pick between like best friends? So I was like, okay, well, I'll hire you, and we all intern, and
were
we'll
like,
get y'all
yeah.
some college credit, and it worked out. And now
did.
we're all so close. But
know.
yeah, I forgot that was the same timeline of
I know,
whenever
I
y'all
forget
met.
about that.
And yeah, y'all became besties, and one thing kind of led to another, and Reeves was like wanting more than a best friend, but
Yeah.
Lydia was not feeling it at the time.
And one day, I literally left work. We had each other's locations. I saw she was home, drove to Ruston, which is like 30 minutes from where I work, and just walked up in her house and basically told her that I wanted to be more than friends. And she's like, with the COVID like Zoom classes, she's like in class and like
It is,
shuts her
like,
computer.
So good.
She like shuts her computer and she's like,
Slowly.
okay. And didn't really give me an answer. I was just like, you don't have to tell me now, but this is just what, like, this is where I'm at. It's either like, we can't be best friends forever because either one of us is going to find somebody and that's not going to be cool
Yeah.
to be best friends with them. So we just got to figure it out. And so she's just like, okay. And so it was like 2 days of going back and forth, to which ended in a text message saying, let's just stay friends. But
Let's just stay friends.
I sent a text.
I didn't even know that was what happened after. That's after
Yeah.
we prayed for you.
Yeah, because Reeves was leading worship, which I've said this on here before, but that was like 2 years ago. Because Reeves was the next night after he came and confessed his feelings to me. He was leading worship, and Sadie and Christian, the one time
The one time and the only time we ever joined the prayer team.
I went up to them crying, and I was like, Reeves loves me, and I don't know if I like him.
And me and Christian were like, oh man, like this is not good because we're like, we love you, we love Reeves. Like I literally
Reeves,
grew
y'all like
up
brother
our
and sister.
entire life. Like he's like my brother, and I know like he has feelings for you, and then you're telling me you don't have feelings for him, and I'm like, oh man. And then I'm like supposed to be the prayer person, so I'm supposed to have like no feelings in this. Like let's give it to the Lord. And so Christian was so funny. I remember Christian was like, look at him up there leading worship.
oh
Yeah.
gosh,
Like
no.
what's not to like about him?
He was.
And then we're like literally praying that like God would change Lydia's heart like over her. We're like, God, like give her the eyes to see like more than friends. And we do this like whole prayer, and then you text him.
And then like
"Let's
2
just
days
be
later,
friends."
I
Yeah.
texted him and I sent this text. I was like, I cherish your friendship so much, and I just think I don't want to put it at risk. And I just hit send.
And then so
terrible.
y'all were just friends,
Well,
Well, yeah. So
but not really.
when that happened, which I got over the fact that it was through text, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, we've been talking in person. I feel like we could have had this conversation, but got past that. And so then from there, it was like, when we go to church on Sundays, it was like, you want to go eat with us? And I was like, I'm gonna go eat with my parents. Like, let's kind of chill on the, like, hanging out all the time, like best friends. Like, we can maybe do that, like, but I just might need some time.
Yeah.
And so, like, she got really upset, like, one day when I didn't go eat with y'all, and so I called her later that day, and I was like, look, it's not anything personal, but, like, I just basically, like, I told you where I'm at, and you said no, and that's great, but I just kind of need some space with that.
So
Pretty much
good.
just like,
Reeves.
give me space. Like,
So good. Like, honestly, I hope that everyone listening is taking notes, because I have to say, like, you led this so well.
he did.
First of all, like, to go up to her in person and, like, respect out of the both of you, tell her exactly how you feel.
Mhm.
Like, that's so rare. Kudos to you. If you are in a relationship and y'all are in that talking confusion, give clarity. It's so important.
Yeah.
And then for you to actually process it for 2 days, that's so good. And then come to the realization, like, hey, and get prayer. That was really important. It's a funny part of the story because it happened to be me and Christian. But, like, to even, like, pursue that, I think
Yeah.
is so good, because you actually gave it thought and then decided no. So you gave clarity back to him. And then you set the boundary that you needed to set and say, okay, well, then that's totally fine, but we can't be best friends because one of us is going to get hurt, and you knew you had feelings for her. So at that point, like, you were at risk of getting hurt because she might end up dating someone else, and that wasn't going to be cool. And so, like, to set the boundaries and actually stick to the boundaries and say, like, okay, because so many people get caught in this trap, this confusing talking thing, and then it's like, we're best friends, but no one wants to make a move, but someone's going to get hurt, and someone does get hurt. So, like, kudos to both of y'all, because I think y'all both did all of this very intentionally. So you took the time and you were mad about it, because then all of a sudden you're missing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Works. Someone asked me who my greatest inspiration was this week, and I said the generation of moms ahead of me. My mom, my grandma, my great-grandma. I'm so blessed to have such a strong network of support from the incredible moms in my family, but there are a lot of mothers out there who do not have that. Some women find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy and might not know where to turn, and that's where my friends at Preborn step in. Preborn provides free ultrasounds to mothers with unplanned pregnancies so that they can meet their little one for the very first time. And this is so cool. Once they hear their baby's heartbeat, these moms are actually twice as likely to choose life for their baby. Now, that is a miracle, right? That's so amazing, and it's so true. When you hear the heartbeat, that's when it kind of, like, sets in, like, wow, you're pregnant. You have a baby in you. Preborn has helped mothers choose life for over 280,000 babies, which is really already amazing, but that's not all they do. I think this is really cool too. Preborn also provides love, support, and counseling for free for up to 2 years. So, like I mentioned, that network of family and that network of community, not everybody has that, but for someone to step in and for free provide counseling for 2 years, I think that's absolutely amazing. I do have an amazing group around me, but still, pregnancy was hard and postpartum was really hard. And so not having that support would have been extremely challenging for me. And so to be able to provide that for other people is such a gift. So one preborn ultrasound is just $28, or a gift of $140 can save the lives of 5 babies, which what a huge impact 5 lives could literally have on the entire world. So fam, we can help change the world by saving the lives of babies. Together, you and I can help mothers choose life. Please join us in the fight. All gifts are tax deductible. To donate, dial pound 250 on your cell and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and use the keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Sadie. Again, that's preborn.com/Sadie. Thank you so much for donating.
I started to question.
Yeah,
I was like, should I have just given it a chance?
Yeah.
Like,
So then you go to Morgan, and then I told Ryan what's going on, and they were just like, what did they say?
Morgan told me, Morgan and Ryan both told me when I told them, I was like, I feel like I might have made a mistake. Like, and now he told me to give him space. Like, I lost my friend. That wasn't my plan. Like, and they were like, well, when you miss him, just read a book. And I was like, read a
Read a
book.
book.
And they were like, you made your decision. Like, there's a reason you made that decision then. And if the Lord, like, if it's truly Reeves who's like your person, like, if you did make a mistake, like, you have to trust that the Lord will bring that back and that he'll work it out in his timing. So they were like, read a book. And I was like, okay, I'll read a book. Like,
That is hilarious.
and so when I would miss him or when I want to call him or when I want to text him, because we were like the kind of friends, we did hang out all the time, and it truly was friends, but we were best friends.
Yeah.
And so I just started reading books. I just picked up some books.
That is hilarious. Okay, so when was the moment that y'all came back together?
Well,
We became friends again. Or we never stopped being friends.
we never
but-
stopped being friends, but there was like kind of natural space.
Yeah, which was
And like, thank God that, Ryan and Morgan were just being led
good. Yeah.
by the Lord in those moments, talking to you and talking to me, because that's like exactly what we both needed.
Yeah.
I think we talk about it. Like, if we would have started dating, then it probably wouldn't have been good. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily in like a horrible place, and neither were you, but it wasn't the best place. Like, we just had some things we were currently working on in our
Yeah.
relationship with the Lord, and like
Yes.
kind of just between both of us coming out of some like just weird pockets of like not as good lifestyle, like some choices, like
Yeah.
so it was just the timing for that not working out was great.
Yes.
But then because of the space and like me just having to be like, okay, I'm gonna have to be okay with this, like, and it's sad, but whatever. I actually like found contentment in the Lord in that season, and I was like, well, I figured out I'm gonna be okay if this isn't
Yeah.
what ends up happening, even though I wanted it.
Yeah.
And so that was like 2 or 3 months of that, and we slowly started hanging out again because we both just kind of got okay with it. But you were kind of just sitting there hoping that we would talk about it again, but I didn't know that. And so then one night, like after our college ministry night, your car was parked at Duck Manor.
It was after a rec league basketball game, actually.
Oh,
parked here.
yes, the good days.
Their
And,
basketball days.
Yeah.
It was parked at Duck Commander. Yeah.
So yeah, we had a game, and then you were like, we were going to Ryan and Morgan's, but they were like, oh, you need to go get your car. Ride with Reeves.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And they just like pushed her towards me in the parking lot. I said, go take her to your car. Because they were talking about it or something.
And at that point, they were like, it's time, Lydia.
Yeah,
it's
they
time
were,
to
like,
say
pushing her to
something
say
again.
something.
The books can go back on the shelf. Like,
So then in the car, like, there was a little mini relationship that had happened for her that I didn't care about. And she's talking to me about it. And I'm like, hey, I just don't really want to hear about this. And she was like, okay. And I was like, well, I hope you can get what I'm saying. Like, I don't care about that guy. Like, and they were like, y'all had broken up or whatever. You're just telling me about it. I'm like, good. I just didn't really know what to say. So, in a nice way, I was just like, let's just not talk about this. And then, I was like, it's just like, I don't want to talk about this because you know how I feel.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
and then I was like, and honestly, it hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
So that was like,
and I was like,
well, and then she was like, well, it hasn't
But
really
you-
changed for me.
That was savage because you kind of wanted him to say it, and so you brought up the guy.
Yeah, she's like trying.
and I was like, yeah, so we ended things.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Yes. I didn't know that she was
He's
like,
like putting out the feelings, and you're like, I literally don't care.
you're like,
Yeah.
stop.
well, I didn't know that
funny.
she had come to the
Yeah.
point that she's like wanting to talk about it. So I'm being, a little blunt about it. And then she's like, well, it hasn't changed for me either.
No, I said it has. I was like,
Well, I mean, it has changed. It has changed.
and he was like, what?
And so then I was like, okay. And this is in the
Okay,
spring.
but inside, internally freaking out.
Well, yeah, it was just kind of out of left field. And this was in the spring. And like I said, I'm still working at Camp Chioka. And she's
about to be a counselor.
about to be a counselor out
Oh,
there,
Yeah.
which
He's
is
gonna
just
be my
a
boss.
I forgot
that's
about
just
that.
a
Yeah.
summertime job for context, and I'm full time there, so that technically makes me over you in a way. And I just was like,
That's a weird
there's
dynamic to
rules
start a
that-
Weird
relationship.
dynamic, yeah.
there's rules at the camp about relationships, and I'm full time, and I was like, well, we can start talking about it, but we can't do anything while you're.
Until the end of the summer.
the end of the
until
summer.
3 months.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And
we
so
waited this long.
I think that was pretty much like, we're like, okay, well, we're gonna just go through the summer, and we're not gonna let anyone know that we've like have this feeling going on between us.
I remember that, but I remember knowing. Like, I remember Lydia being like dying for that summer to be over.
I know.
So y'all could date, which I think was so good because I think it kind of caught you up to speed to where maybe he was at, like desiring the relationship
yes.
that
Yeah.
you couldn't have.
Yes, it was like, and I'll just kind of speed up to the end of the story, but it was like we both had that conversation on our first date. So after the summer ended, long story short, there were a few conversations here and there in the summer about like annoyances or different things, and like,
Well, okay. We get to the end of the summer, and we've both been waiting for it to end. And I ask her if she wants to go to Parrish. I've made a reservation. It's a nice restaurant in town, like the nicest restaurant in town. And she says no.
yes.
Why? Why did you say no?
I was nervous. I was
What?
stressed. And so there was still technically
then
a
she
week
says-
left. There was
she
still
says
technically
no.
a week left of camp. And
Yeah,
so I
but-
said, camp's not over. It's not time
But
yet.
I like
What?
me and John Luke are best friends. I was like, hey, can I go ahead and like take Lydia out on a date? He knows what's going on. And he's like, yeah, it's all, I mean, summer's over. Like, y'all did it. And so I know it's okay, but you were nervous about it. And then you said no. And I was like, all right, okay. I was so confused. But then you walked away and cried.
Then I
So good.
cried.
Yeah.
I cried. I walked.
So you were nervous to go on the date? You were,
Uh-huh.
were
This
you
is-
just
I was both. I was like,
trying to postpone?
yeah, I was just like, this is Reeves, and this is so important, and this is the moment.
This is
Like,
where the confidence thing
How is
kinda
this
comes
date
in.
gonna go?
Like,
Like,
get one shot.
because I was
not
like,
Mr.
this
Date.
at this
Yeah.
point we're like a year into this whole thing, and I'm like, this is a year-long process. Like, and this is the moment. This date means a lot, and I was like, no,
Oh my gosh. Okay, but obviously it worked out.
it worked.
Yeah.
But I have to say, okay, there's so many lessons in this that it's actually crazy. So like I said, I hope y'all are paying attention the whole time.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really want to highlight is like Reeves, your pursuit
Yeah.
of Lydia is incredible. Like it is beautiful because there was a lot of waiting. There was a lot of hard conversations. There was confusion. There was a no after all summer. There was stuff like that. There's like multiple no's. But like you kept pursuing, and pursuing people is like, I think it's like a lost art, you know, like that's something that
Yes.
I think is every girl is like worth, you know, being pursued by a godly man. Like I just feel like God, that it's like God's design, like being the bride of Christ, like being pursued by Jesus himself, you know, that he's
Yeah.
like coming back for his bride. Like there's such a beautiful gospel story in a man pursuing a woman. And you did that for Lydia. So anyways, I want to hear from you, Reeves, about just like a challenge to men on pursuing women. And then also like Lydia, speak to this too, because it goes both ways. You know, I think when I think about pursue, I think like, yes, Christian pursued me, but I was also a part of pursuing him too. And like being a part of this relationship, just like your relationship with God, like he pursues you, but then you have to commit to him too. You know, like you have to be in relationship with him.
Yeah.
And so like you're pursuing her, and there's times where you're like, I don't want it. I don't
Yeah.
want it. And then you keep pursuing. What a picture of the gospel, you know? And then eventually you're like, I do want this.
Yeah.
And now you have like the blessing and the benefit of being in
Yeah.
relationship. It's the same thing with Jesus. So like you got to give an example of that to her, and you got to step into that and see that too.
Yeah.
But do you want to speak to that, Lydia, first?
Yes. I just want to add one more little piece and then I'll be done. But another part, and this is bragging on Reeves too, but on our first date, we finally went on the date about a week after that. So it happened. But we were at Parrish, and at that time, we both were sitting there, and we really were just sitting across the table, and we were just looking at each other and saying like, wow, like this truly has been all in the Lord's timing. Like it really has been perfect in his timing, because like he already said, if we had started dating when he had first come to me 8 months before, our relationship would have looked completely different, because like he said, at that time, both of us had our own individual struggles and things that we were still surrendering to the Lord, you know? And so it really was perfect timing. And like in that 8 month span, I also got baptized, and like I had truly surrendered everything
Yeah.
to the Lord. And we just talked about how kind it was that the Lord knew that those things
Wow.
needed to take place before
Yep.
we came to a place together,
Yep.
you know?
That's
And
cool.
it really was, the Lord was just so intentional about that. And I'm still so thankful for that, because I know I know our relationship would have looked completely different if it had been on our timing or on Reeves's timeline.
That's really cool.
And then the last thing though was even after that, like a couple weeks later, Reeves was like, Lydia, I don't want to rush you. Like, I want this to be your, like, don't feel rushed by this, you know, whenever you're ready to like say yes to be my girlfriend, like then like, you know, he was trying to be so kind and like, I'm not rushing you. And I was like, okay. 'Cause you know, nervous me. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to commit. And he at first was like, I totally understand. Like, I'm not rushing you. And then so we had that conversation. And then a day after that, again, Reeves came with like confidence and boldness. And he sat me down and he was like, and now I tell this to girls now that I work with in college. Reeves sat me down and he said, we're dating, Lydia. Like, he was like, you are my girlfriend. I am your boyfriend, whether you want to call it that or not. And I promise you, like, I'm committed to you. Are you committed to me? Like, and he was just like straight up. And because we had just had this conversation where he was like, I'm not going to rush you. Like, you don't have to be my girlfriend. And I was like, thank you. Because I'm just so nervous about commitment. And the next day he came and he said that to me. And he was like, you are my girlfriend. Like, I am your boyfriend. It's just whether or not you want to call it that. That's what this is. So are we dating? Are you committed to me? Because I'm committed to you. And I was just like, I guess I'm committed to you. Like, and that was, I mean, that sounds so terrible now,
chills.
But it was like,
that
was how like, and that's what I needed. Like, Reeves has always been, why am I getting emotional? But he's always been the man I needed. Like, you can take over because I don't know why I'm crying.
No, because it's beautiful, because that's how it should be, because a man should be confident in who he is and confident enough to lead a woman well and protect her heart. Like, that's what it looks like to protect a heart. It's like so many people these days are afraid of commitment, and because they're afraid of commitment, it's keeping them from the blessing that commitment brings, from the fullness that commitment brings. You think that commitment's going to hold you back, but commitment like frees you to actually fully step into what God designed.
That was the point I was trying to get to, is like, because I'd just been through so much before, and I was just scared of all that came with the commitment. But then it was when the commitment came, and when it was like he gave me the confidence and like to be comfortable in committing to him and to know that he was truly committed to me was like, I mean, it was like a month later we were like, I love you. And then like after that, it's like, I know you're the person. Like, it was almost like immediately, like I was like, I know this is the man like I'm gonna marry. And it was the same for him. Like, but it was when like he gave me the space to like to be comfortable in that commitment and to know it was like true and real. Was when like that freedom came in, you know.
Wow. That is so good.
Sorry,
no, don't be sorry. That's so real, because there's a lot of
every day.
No, there's a lot of girls that listen to this crying too, because they've been scared of committing, and because commitment always seemed like a bad thing. But like now you're painting the picture of how like you have to commit to actually step into relationship, you know? And it's the same thing. Again, this is a picture of the gospel. So many people don't want to commit to Christ, but then it's like, because you don't commit, you don't get the fullness and like the freedom of actually living in Christ.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's just this is such a beautiful picture of the gospel, honestly. Reeves, like, I think it's really cool and something to point out that in your story you shared, you said like just a couple years before, your mind wasn't there. Like you have been like on drugs and medication to where like you couldn't think right, you couldn't study, and like now here we are talking about these intentional conversations and timing, and obviously something changed. Like obviously there was like a clarity in your mind that you didn't have before, and I would say like that's the Holy Spirit in your life. Like you're actually leaning into what God was doing and how God was leading. Can you talk a little bit about pursuing, Lydia, as far as like just challenging men out there to pursue women, but also at the same time like how to let God lead you as you lead a woman? Because that's really what you did.
Yeah, and I think that it's something that, looking back, I realized that that's what was happening, but in the moment, it's just one step at a time, and trying to focus on that and letting God work in it, because a lot of things happen that I couldn't have necessarily picked, because it wouldn't have been what I chose.
Yeah.
Like when she said no, that was the Lord and us letting him work in that. Like I didn't go and try to change her answer, because that's not what I wanted to hear. Instead, I was disappointed, but
it's great.
I backed off.
Yeah,
I didn't try to force that answer to be different for what I wanted. And really, like I said, in that season after that, I became okay with that answer.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm okay. I have the Lord, and I have my job, and I have family, and I have friends, and I have other things that are going, and life goes on, and it's gonna be okay, and we'll eventually kind of be friends, whatever. And I
Mm.
in that season too, now I would say that I just hold really fast to the sovereignty of God, and I love just studying that and remembering that and holding to that, and in that season I learned that if that's what he wants for me, then he will make it happen.
Mm.
And so if he didn't let that happen, then it's not what he wants for me. And finding peace in that and being okay with that was crucial for me, because I became content in the Lord. And then I realized, which is, I think this is big for guys that might be listening and girls, but I can't mess this up.
Mm.
And I think before this pursuit and this relationship, I'd struggled with like, there's a one, like there's got to be one, or maybe there isn't one. Maybe I could just be married to any girl that I find attractive and best friends with, whatever, and it would work because God is good and he works through it if we just put him first. And maybe there's a lot of truth to that. But at the end of the day, in order to let the Lord work in that
Mm.
and set that up for you and just follow his lead on that, you have to know you can't mess it up. And
Yeah.
so whatever I had done or whatever had brought you to say no at first, I didn't do anything to mess it up. I
Mhm.
just continued pursuing the Lord, found contentment in him, and then when the timing was right, he made that happen because that's what he wanted for both of us.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so I think that
So good.
and so it's hard to explain how you need to let the Lord lead in your life, but I think that this story is kind of a picture of how I learned that and how you learn that.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think kind of you said too, like some of the things you said without saying it is like, I didn't try to manipulate it. Like, I didn't try to change her answer. I let her answer be her answer. And in my disappointment, instead of taking my disappointment and trying to change her mind through manipulation, or as people are saying now, like gaslighting or whatever, like whatever tactic that maybe your disappointment could have led you to,
yeah,
you took your disappointment to the Lord and said, God, like, help me find contentment in this disappointment. And through doing that, the Lord showed you what good things you have in your life. Like, okay, look at all the things I have. I have my family, I have my friends, I have my job, I have my things. If it doesn't work out with Lydia, I'm going to be okay.
yeah,
So then you were able to fully let her have her space while you were not sitting over there depressed, crying. You were like,
yeah,
all right, I'm okay. God's got me. And I think like even that in and of itself is like, I think you can't mess it up if you're pursuing the Lord and doing it God's way. Like people mess it up when they try to like take the reins and try to like throw in that manipulation, their own will. They're hurting people through it. They're making you feel stupid. They're making you, like that's when you start going off course. But like if you're pursuing the Lord and bringing him to the center point of it, like you really can't mess it up. And as a prayer that I've found that's helped me a lot is I'll say like, God, if this is your will, then nothing will be able to stop it from happening. If it's not your will, then I don't need it, and that's just been like a prayer for me whenever I go through like disappointment, when I'm like, God, I really want this. God, why aren't you answering me in this? God, why haven't you come through on this? And then I'm like, okay, if it's your will for me to step into that, then nothing can stop it. If it's not your will for me to step into that, then I really don't need it, and help me to find without it, contentment without it, which is hard, but God will. He will lead you to that. And so y'all's story is so incredible. I think for those listening, man, what a great story to just go back to as even like a blueprint for how to date well, pursue well, and also from two people who had a little bit crazier past, who didn't do it right several times, but then did it right this one time, and it led to an amazing marriage and friendship and blessing to so many other people, including Christian and I. And so thank y'all for sharing your story. And also it's so cool when you pursue someone like Christ pursued the church, when you are in a relationship where God's at the center, then people get to see God when they see you. People get to see God when they hear about your story. And so through them telling their story, we all got to hear the story of the gospel. And so, man, that's the power of stepping into God-centered relationships. People often say, like, do I have to date a Christian if I'm a Christian, And, it's such a bigger answer than just saying, like, yes. It's like, why would you not want to? Because if you are, that's the most important thing in your life. Then, like, one, you get to experience the power of the gospel through your relationship because it's the design God had for marriage. But then two, people get to see the gospel through your relationship. And so, like, man, the power of being equally yoked, the power of both pursuing the Lord to pursue each other, there's just nothing like it. And so thank y'all for speaking into that. The power of commitment, clarity, all the things. This was a message that we needed to hear as a generation. So thank you guys so much. And don't forget that this Friday we have a brand new song, Followers, coming out that I think is really going to minister to y'all, speak to y'all, and just be a fun song for the summer. So thank you guys so much. This is funny, guys. We're popping back in here because this happens all the time. After the podcast, where I'm like, oh, we should have said this, we should have said this. Like, I think about that. But Reeves said, I wish I would have talked about the purity. And I said, we'll talk about the purity because that's so important. And I know people need to hear this. So,
yeah, one thing that we learned looking back is that we were able to remain pure in our relationship, and we abstained from having sex before marriage. But with how much of a struggle that was at times, and like we made mistakes, and it was really hard because both of us had not remained pure before we were together. But looking back after we were married, it was like, man, if we had started dating when we initially tried to start dating, had the Lord not stopped that, we would have for sure. And we kind of touched on earlier, like we had some personal struggles. We would have, I don't know that we would have been able to do what we set out to do and remain pure. And the point that we would have started the relationship, I wouldn't have built such a strong stance about that because it was in that time in between when we had tried to date and it didn't work and then we ended up dating. I had really pressed in on some of the struggles in my life and started surrendering a lot of that and working on that part of me. And something I came to kind of stand on, I guess, is that, and this is big, I love sharing this, if you're willing to go outside of marriage in a dating relationship to have sex, then you don't hold the covenant of marriage as highly as you ought to, the way that God calls us to. Because if you're willing to go outside of marriage with that person in the dating relationship, then you're willing to go outside of it when you're married too.
Wow.
And when I heard that, I was like, okay, so it's on the same level as.
Wow.
Because it's not about the fact that it's that person, like you're going to be married anyway. I think that's a huge excuse today. Yeah. And it's honestly a lousy excuse because when you think about it like that, if you don't value marriage, like value the covenant of marriage, and you're willing to go outside of that in the dating relationship, then you'll be willing to go outside of it. What does it hold at that point?
Wow.
Because you already did it.
Yeah.
Even if it's with the person you're going to be married to.
Yeah. Wow.
So whenever we ended up dating, I went into it with that understanding. I was like, oh, this is way more important.
And and he really did lead that too in our relationship, which was really huge.
There was moments where I was weak and you were strong.
It's true, but you led it from the beginning, like you did, and it was huge because I had never experienced sex in a beautiful way before, like, you know, and it, because it was outside of marriage, it was outside of the will of the Lord, and so it was never what it was intended to be. Yeah, and so even that was another reason I was scared of commitment. Everything was just, I was like, I don't know if I'm strong enough to like follow the will of the Lord in this area. And I remember like praying, I was like, God, like I need you to send me a man who actually will like love me how you want him to love me. And in that sense will like lead us away from this. Like, and so I had never experienced it in a beautiful way. And then with Reeves, it was truly like from the beginning, he led that. Like he was like, the Lord says this. And if the Lord says it's not good outside of marriage, it's not good. And so we are going to fight.
And
like,
take it seriously.
It's going to be a fight our entire relationship. And it's not going to be easy, but we're going to fight this. And now being on the other side of it, like after marriage and truly like, I don't know if like, but after our wedding, like everything, I truly now it's like looking back, it all makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me like, I wish I could go back and tell like little me. And now like
Yeah.
I do tell girls, like, I'm like, I know you're not here. So you're not me. You haven't experienced it. But I'm like, God, like he says it because he loves you.
Yeah.
Like it's truly protection that he doesn't want you to go like to do that.
Yes.
And it's like on the other side of it, it makes so much sense.
Yes.
Like it's like, this is why he says to wait.
Yes.
Like this is why, like
I wish more people like would have told us that when we were young,
Mhm.
that it's because of it's a good thing, and because
he
of the
loves
gift
us.
that he has, and because he loves us, and because what he designed is good.
Yeah.
And outside of it is not good.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's actually not good. Like
Right.
it
hurts.
hurts you. Like it
yeah.
literally hurts you. Like just, knowing some of your story and like
Yeah.
pain that's come from it, it's like that is really hard. And even like me and Christian have been open talking about our past struggles. Like it hurts. And
Yeah.
so then to have it in a beautiful way, the way it was designed, and to be good, and it protects your heart and all the things, it's like, man, I wish people weren't just like, don't have sex before you're married.
No,
because then
there's
you're
so
just
much
like,
more.
Why? I want to,
Yeah.
But then to hear what God has for it, it's like, oh wow, because it's so much better, because it's like
Yeah.
actually beautiful, and it's a gift. And so I'm so glad that y'all spoke to that, because it is true. And also like, just take note as you're listening, because some of you might be listening and be like, man, I've already messed it up.
Mhm.
No,
The redemption.
like there's so much redemption. Like even if you're in a relationship right now with the guy you're gonna marry, and y'all are engaged and you're having sex, like it's not too late to like stop, pump the brakes, and be like, hey, let's practice right now what this looks like to actually pursue what God says is good, and wait, and sustain from that, and step into marriage pure, because right now you asked for forgiveness and turned and
Yeah.
repented, and there's a redemption story for you. So like I just believe it is never too late to be washed in the blood of Christ and be pure in his sight, and no matter what relationship you're in. And coming from all of us, who I would say we all went into marriage purely, and that's not because we did everything perfect, and that's not because we abstained from everything, but because we repented before Christ and got pure before stepping into our wedding night. There's freedom for you, friend. And so thank y'all for picking the mic back up because that needed to be said.
Yeah.
It was so good.